Hi, and welcome back to TikTok Tuesday. So today's episode is actually part 1 of 2. I'm going to be talking about comorbid disorders and other comorbidities involving Tourette syndrome. So basically, comorbidity means the presence of one or more additional conditions that are co-occurring with a primary condition. So basically, issues, problems, or other disorders and disabilities that go along with Tourette syndrome. Now, there's this iceberg model that shows you, I love the iceberg model in like almost any situation, by the way, like considering Freud and everything. Anyway, it's getting off topic. It's a great model, shows that motor and vocal tics are just the tip of the iceberg, and everything underneath are these underlying conditions that often like will get ignored and just kind of tossed aside, like, oh, let's deal with this. But there's all this other stuff that we need to deal with. I find it very interesting. So to start, I'm actually going to, I would say like first half of them I'm doing for this episode, and then next week I'm going to cover the rest of them. So to start out, we have very commonly known attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD. I know most people already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So ADHD is a disorder that's marked by an ongoing pattern of inattention and or hyperactivity / impulsivity that interferes with functioning or development. Now, the inattention, that's wandering off tasks, lacking your persistence, and have difficulty sustaining focus, disorganization, that kind of thing. And then hyperactivity is restlessness, moving around, excessive fidgeting, tapping, talking, things like that, and can be quite yeah, like I said, restlessness, and can really get in the way of doing other activities. Impulsivity. So being impulsive, making hasty actions without thinking, which has a high potential for risk for harm, desire for immediate rewards and gratification, socially intrusive and excessively interrupts others, making important decisions without considering the long-term consequences. So these are just some factors of ADHD. They're just to try to keep it as condensed as possible. So I do not have ADHD, so I cannot tell you from personal experience how that affects me like day to day. I do know, however, it can be very hard and difficult trying to find medication to alleviate both tics and ADHD, because often, like for example, Vyvanse, for me, and a lot of times, not for everyone, but sometimes for others, it can make you very focused and hone in on what you're doing, but it can also make your tics severely worse. But again, I'm not going to get into medications. That's actually going to be a different video, and I'm very excited about that one. But that's just an example, but I need to keep it rolling because I have quite a few more to go. So next I have sensory processing disorder, or sensory processing issues. That's gonna be a little bit more mild than actual disorder, but just to make it clear what sensory processing disorder is, it is a neurological disorder where the sensory information that someone perceives results in abnormal or inappropriate responses, can often lead to rage. Sometimes like it just tantrums, even if you're younger and you don't know how to regulate your feelings or everything. Basically the senses get mixed up, and it's like kind of like a traffic jam in your brain. And to understand this better, because I do not believe I have sensory processing disorder, but I have something very common associated with it, and I'll get to that in a minute. So of course we have our 5 senses. We do have a couple more. So we got our visual, our sight, auditory, our hearing, tactile, which is touch, olfactory, which is smell, gustatory, which is taste, and then we have vestibular, which is like your equilibrium or your balance of your head movement in space, proprioception, I've said that before, your sense of your muscle or joint movement, and then interoception, which is the sense of your physiological internal organs. An example of that would be hunger or thirst, that feeling, because it's in your like your actual organs. Going back to my experience, so I have something called misophonia, which is very common in sensory processing issues. And for me personally, here's what it is. It's a disorder where certain sounds or trigger emotional or actual physiological responses that seem unreasonable to anybody else. So like I'm trying to think of an example that's not mine. A car honking, whistling, things like that, that might really, really just get to you internally. And for me, certain sounds actually like make my heart beat faster. So I think that is a great example of sensory processing issues or sensory processing disorder. Next, we have anxiety. Now, everybody, just get this clear, everybody has anxiety in their day-to-day life. You don't go throughout life without experiencing stressors and anxiety. Specifically, we have generalized anxiety disorder. Not everybody has this. I do have this. So when most people refer to being diagnosed with anxiety, it's usually generalized anxiety disorder, which is excessive anxiety or worry about a number of things, personal health, work, social interactions, social media, social interference, everyday routine life circumstances that can get in the way because of your anxiety. Very co-occurring or comorbid with Tourette syndrome for, obvious reasons, going out in public. I've read different things from different people saying that their tics are pretty debilitating and inhibit them from wanting to go out and talk to people and socialize, interact, all that kind of stuff. More specifically, we got panic disorder. I have a few more after this as well. These are anxiety disorders, by the way. So panic disorder is recurrent, unexpected panic attacks that come out of nowhere. It's really scary to think about. If you've never had a panic attack before, I'm thankful. I mean, good for you, and I'm jealous. But panic attacks are sudden periods of intense fear that come on quickly and reach their peak within minutes. For me, I have had panic attacks in the past due to anxiety and other factors. So like for me, I have extreme anxiety when going to the dentist or anything dental of that nature. Sorry, I just saw a hair. Now I have to move it. That's OCD. We'll get to that one at the very end because that's my favorite. But no, for me, panic attacks usually end in fainting or passing out. It's not for everybody, but makes your breaths short. You start breathing really heavily. You might get lightheaded. Your heart will beat really fast. You'll shake. It's panic. And that's what panic disorder is. Social anxiety disorder is a general intense fear or anxiety towards social or performance situations. So basically like public speaking, that can be a big one. Phobia-related disorders, I just wanted to include this. It's not really tied so much into Tourette syndrome, like in the iceberg model, but it's just an anxiety disorder that I just wanted to bring up. Phobias are fears, so just fears of specific situations or objects. After anxiety, we have depression. This is also a big one when it comes to Tourette syndrome. And anxiety too. Anxiety and depression go really well together. They do. I hate to say it, but they do. So again, it's not uncommon for people to experience depression in their lives. But when it becomes debilitating is when it's a disorder, when it's a problem. So when someone has depression, it means they have low serotonin levels, which is a hormone that is activated in your brain, makes you happy. And when you have low serotonin, you can't be happy or can't be as happy as much as you'd like to. So depression is also another word that people use when referring to major depressive disorder, which I am diagnosed with, which is a mood disorder causing severe symptoms that affect how you feel, think, and handle daily activities. After that, we have what's called persistent depressive disorder, or it's also called dysthymia, which is it's a major depressive disorder that lasts for 2 years or more, and it's persistent, like it doesn't go away. You can have major depressive symptoms while having persistent depressive disorder, but it's just a constant state of mild depression pretty much. So I also have some other depressive disorders on here that aren't Tourette's related, but I wanted to include them just so people know what they are. So we have postpartum depression, which is depression when you, after giving birth. That's quite common, actually, and a lot of women don't like to talk about that, but it's something that I think is becoming more okay to talk about, and I'm glad, because people need to talk about it. After having a baby, your hormones are all over the place. They're all over the place when you're pregnant, throughout labor and everything anyway. But so postpartum depression can and does go away, but for some it doesn't always. We also have psychotic depression. That's way more specific and tied to psychosis. After that, seasonal affective disorder, which is pretty much seasonal depression, typically occurs in colder winter months. So I know Alaska has like a high number of people who have seasonal affective disorder because they have dark time, like they have dark months where they don't see the sun. And I know exposure therapy or light exposure therapy can help with that. I'm getting off track again because I just find it very interesting. Okay, so after depression, rage. So rage is not really a disorder. It's more of just a symptom. If we're talking about disorders, though, it's called intermittent explosive disorder, which is like way more hostile. Rage is more spontaneous and is triggered. Rage is you start to handle it better as you get older. Some people need more help than others, but it's just violent, uncontrolled anger. After that, I know I mentioned impulsivity before. Along with that, we have disinhibition. It's very similar to impulsivity. I've wrapped my brain around this, and I cannot figure out the difference between disinhibition and impulsivity. So if someone knows, please tell me. Because disinhibition is just the lack of self-control, including impulsivity. I think impulsivity might just be a little less severe, but I'm not completely sure on that one. I've been trying all day to figure out the difference, and I couldn't. So the last one that I'm going to talk about on this episode is obsessive compulsive disorder. I wanted to save this one for last because I have so much experience with this, and it's my favorite. So, and it's also highly misrepresented and misunderstood. So obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, it is a disorder that is characterized by uncontrollable recurring thoughts or obsessions or behaviors or compulsions that someone feels the need or the urge to repeat over and over. So it's not just, I need to keep everything clean or everything. No, there's a reason for these behaviors, these compulsive behaviors. So some examples of obsessive or like intrusive unwanted thoughts. One is fear of germs or contamination. That's me right here. Actually, a real specific example, if I have time to explain this. I have short legs and I was wearing long pants today. And when walking in the cafeteria, I can't stand like dirt, and not dirt, like outside, like outdoor dirt. I don't mind, but it's like gross inside, whatever, like food and like other like stuff like gum. I'm just dust, hair, crumbs, dirt. I don't like it. But so when you're walking in a cafeteria, there's going to be squished food on the floor. I'll hike my pants up and walk on my toes. I cannot have my pants dragging the floor and then bringing that into my room. My room's constantly clean, so I don't have a problem dragging my pants across my own room. It's just like other indoor places that I don't think are clean, or I don't know if they've been cleaned or not. Anyway, after that, some other recurring thoughts could be unwanted religious affiliation thoughts, or they have a religious affiliation, maybe sexual, very inappropriate, harmful. I say fatal too, even though the thoughts aren't fatal, or they are not fatal, but they feel like they could be, like you might cause harm onto someone. That's another one. The thought of aggressive thoughts or harmful thoughts towards yourself or others. And then symmetry and organization and perfection. That is also a big one. I have quite a few of those. They are unwanted and they're debilitating, and I'm running out of time. So compulsions, we have excessive cleaning and hand washing, ordering, arrangement. These are just examples, and I don't have much time, so I'm gonna have to wrap this one up. Next week, I'll talk about a little bit more in depth on obsessive compulsive disorder and more specific types of body focused repetitive behaviors. I want to get into that too because I find that very interesting. So I will see all of you next week with a lot more information. Bye.